Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Questionable Podcast, episode 5. Today, I'm here with Connor. Say hi, Connor.
Hello there. Hello there.
And then Fish will also be joining us with my friend, the Mundane Fish. Today, we are doing the Empires of the World tier list. Now, this actually is a good reason to do this tier list, considering because both Connor and I are history education majors, and Fish wants to also be that. I think he still wants to be the history education major. So we are going to be ranking these empires on terms of length, influence, and what was it? In the fall, and like how it fell, because some of them could be really funny. So we're gonna kickstart this off. The Abbasids. First, let's look up the Abbasids.
Gentlemen.
Hello there.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
I'm
gonna be in and out for a little bit.
We just started. So this is the Abbasid Caliphate.
That reminds me of the Ottoman Empire a little bit. Never heard of it.
The Abbasid Caliphate was one of the first caliphates to form during like the rise of the Islamic empires.
So yeah, basically, this is also the same area where Islamic influence is today too. So I mean, like, it is a pretty sizable chunk, I could say. You got it spanning from all the way here close to, like, even on Sicily, you have it here for a little bit. I'm assuming this is at its peak, all the way up to close to like the Aral Sea. So we're gonna have still look up some stuff. We are using Wikipedia. Shout out Wikipedia for this.
The most reputable source around.
Yes. So we need to find out why it fell and how funny it was. Because we already really know the influence of it, because obviously, as Connor was saying, how it was one of the first caliphates to come about.
It came about after it actually overthrew the initial caliphate, the Umayyad Caliphate, which reigned in that area, plus the Iberian Peninsula and the rest of North Africa from the years 661 to 750 CE. Most of that territory that you see for the Abbasid Caliphate, that is still a majority of what was the Umayyad Caliphate, except Iberia and some of that other North African territory.
Mm-hmm. It seems like the end with it was basically just from the conflict with the Umayyads in Spain, and then also their financial position, so it basically just crumbled on its own. For me, I'm putting this, like, I want to say a solid B tier, for the reason being, like, you know, it has big Islamic influence, and also it's a pretty sizable chunk of land that they grabbed and stuff like that. I'd say it's pretty solid. Yeah, it's not amazing.
I agree with a B tier as well for me. Like I said, it's one of the first. It was the successor to the initial Umayyad Caliphate.
Yeah.
They still had a significant influence,
mm-hmm.
but nothing like the first caliphate, the Umayyad Caliphate, since they were the first ones.
Fish, where are you putting it?
I'm not gonna let it sound like a solid D tier to me.
D tier, can you explain?
Not very notable. Don't really know much about it, though, I'm gonna be honest, so.
Okay, fair enough. Is that it?
Nope. Yeah. Also, I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
You're good. Okay. Next, we're moving on the Achaemenids.
This might have to do something with Persia. I'm not 100% sure.
It looks to be like something like that.
Yes. The Achaemenid Empire, according to the most reputable source, that is Wikipedia, the Achaemenid Empire, or otherwise known as the First Persian Empire, was founded by Cyrus the Great in the year 550 BCE.
Okay, so yeah, this one's big. This one's big.
Yes.
Yeah, this one's a good one. Like, I mean, you can see it on this map here. Shout out Wikipedia. Man, this is huge. Spanning from like Asia Minor all the way up into like you have Afghanistan, Iran, stuff like that.
I would say, this was the Persian Empire that Alexander overthrew.
Yeah, so I mean that is a big factor too. So, as a big factor in terms of like its fall. So like you get destroyed by Alexander the Great. I mean, come on. So
and also too, it's still very important. Still, obviously,
it's still very important.
Important. It's talked about in ancient history extensively for many reasons. A fun fact about Persia and what is now the modern day country of Iran, it is home to this religion called Zoroastrianism that has to revolve around the sun, basically. Or the four elements, but the sun is a major part.
Yeah. Very influential. You don't see too much about it, like at least like in modern times. But at the time there, it was definitely a big source of land, like as we saw like from the map, and definitely it provided like a lot of like that was like the main Persian Empire, like what we always talked about like before obviously Alexander the Great came in, took it over.
Yes.
So, for me, I'm gonna say I would say I'm gonna put it in A. It is like technically part of the Persian Empire. Like Persian Empire, you can't take away what they did at the time. It sure doesn't have a lot of impact as it does now, because obviously with like all the caliphates and stuff, definitely stuff like that is moved away from what Persian Empire was doing. But I'd say I think it's at least good on the terms of influence at the time.
I agree. I agree for A tier for me as well. I mean, they did what they were important. They were we still talk about them today.
Mm-hmm.
That's technically. I know I'm not sure if Iran still considers themselves the successor state to Persia, but before Iran became Iran, it was still known as Persia for a good amount of time, even when with the modern day borders that is Iran.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this classic empire, classic rise, classic story fought Alexander, met the demise, the sword of Alexander, but so it's going to be an A tier for me.
All right, next we're going to do the Assyrian Sultanate. I've never heard of the Assyrian Sultanate.
I'm not as familiar with this one, actually. The Assyrian Sultanate, correct?
Yep, all right. Let's see it. Okay,
right.
I look for a map.
Alrighty, so the Assyrian Sultanate, it's simply known as Assyrian, and it was an empire in what is now modern day Somalia during the Middle Ages, around the Horn of Africa. It was very important with trade, and it belonged to the greater Somali Muslim Sultanate that ruled over a large chunk of the Horn of Africa during the Middle Age period. It was a successful trade empire. It seems that they actually repelled multiple incursions into their nation and established extensive trade routes. I don't see the fall right away, so I have to figure out the fall.
It seems like it definitely held up on its own.
It did, especially if it was as big as a trading empire. It makes it out the scene. And then here we go. Yeah, just a lot of looked like it just had some declining
revolts and stuff, loss of port cities and fertile farms. Basically, kind of just like a steady decline, not like a real hey done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd assume having to fight the Portuguese a few times would also do it, even if Portugal didn't physically take it over, having to spend that much money to fight against Portugal at the time.
Yeah. It also says that it established another dynasty too, which could be a factor. Um, I would say for me, since I never heard of this before, I think I'm gonna put it in a C tier. Sure, it's got like some good trade and stuff. Other than that, like it's just kind of like the same as like every other empire, just like declines just from being here for so long, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C tier for me as well. It's
See.
I gotta say I'll give it credit for uh the trading. I gotta say that's pretty good to have, especially in the Indian Ocean area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like definitely too, like with fighting the Portugal. Yeah, Portugal's obviously one of the big countries of today, so obviously it's more of a bigger influence than a place in Somalia. Which I mean, it could lead to a rise in like Somalian Islamist areas too, which religion's obviously a big factor.
Right.
Axam? Never heard of Axam? There's gonna be a lot of ones we have never heard.
I've vaguely heard of it, probably just because of it being in passing or something.
Okay, it looks very small. This is all I got. The Axumite Empire.
Yes,
So.
it was as the map showed, it was a kingdom in East Africa and Southern Arabia,
Mm-hmm.
which existed up until the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
It's the city of Axam served as the kingdom's capital. The kingdom became another major trading power.
Yeah.
This time between the Roman Empire and India because of its location,
Mm-hmm.
and because of its location and having its trading power, it also became a major trade influence in the Indian Ocean, just like our previous empire.
Mm-hmm. It looks like at least like from the decline, it shows that like they just lost like the most of the coast, which was like obviously as you're saying like big when you're like one of the big trading areas, and then
Yes.
and then it talks about Alexandria attribute Ethiopia's condition to war, plague, and rains under the reign of Dijan. During the 9th century, the empire kept expanding south, undertaking missionary activities south of Angad. So it seems like it didn't really like die off. It's just kind of just there now.
Yeah, kind of. It's like it kind of just folded into something bigger
Yeah, it
eventually.
basically just turned into something different.
So
This one
I
doesn't
mean, good
say.
for them.
Yeah, it's like yeah, good for them. Like out of all these people, I'm gonna probably put mine in the D tier though. It feels like it's just like, hey, you guys basically just got attacked and just done. So we're just gonna move you somewhere else and just have you be a one bigger thing. It didn't
Hey,
like.
I'm back.
All right, Fish is back. Fish, you missed a lot.
Where we at?
We're on Akasum. So first of all, the Achumenids, where are you putting it?
It's a great question. I don't know who they are.
The Adjurian Sultanate.
Oh, Nigerian Sultanate? I mean, never really heard of them, don't know much about them. Saw a D tier to me, not really notable, doesn't stand out.
Axum? You just talked about
Yeah.
Axum?
Yeah.
So. Okay, I'm gonna put. I put Axum in the D tier. Connor, where are you putting it?
I want to put Axum actually in E tier
E. Ooh.
Wow.
because I mean
It's
they
nothing really much about it. Yeah.
they didn't. It seems like to me one of their biggest things is they talk about the currency a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great and all. That's great that they're another trading power, but if you lose your coast but still somehow succeed,
Yeah.
that's a bit iffy.
True. Definitely, it feels like it's like a small empire, nothing like too serious. It feels like it's like one of those small kingdoms in Germany, like those like little small states that you will never hear of ever again. It's like it has
Yes,
little
exactly.
influence of the bigger part of which is the Holy Roman Empire at the time. So yeah, it's absolutely nothing to me. Uh, yeah, Fish. We're just gonna like, where would you put Oxum since that explanation from Connor?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. It sounds like a solid E tier to me.
We're just gonna skip on the Ecumenids because you weren't here for that, so we're just gonna move on. Well, we're just gonna think. I'm gonna put it where I think you would put it. It's basically it's based off of Cyrus the Great's Persian Empire, basically.
You say it's based from the Persian Empire?
It is it's basically one of the big versions of the Persian Empire from Cyrus the
Oh,
Great.
part of the Persian. All right. I mean,
What would
that
you?
sounds like a C tier. I mean, yeah, it's an influential empire. It might not be the thing itself, but it's part of it.
It's
It
just
was there.
getting very critical. Okay. Let's move on. The Ashanti.
Yes, the Ashanti Empire. I actually know a little bit about this because it is, for the most part, modern day Ghana.
Okay, that works. At least we
It,
got someone that knows something about it, because I couldn't tell you.
it was a very influential African empire too. Um,
Okay.
it lasted for 200 years. It's formally established in 1701.
Mm-hmm.
Existed until 1901.
Okay, so that's
You had had a lot of trade.
definitely on that
Notably
coast.
the Dutch. However, it was also, let's see, its economy was mainly based on gold and agricultural exports,
Okay.
but it also had some fun little trading endeavors in the slave trade.
Okay, so we're
Oh,
seeing
that's fine.
some very bad influence. Uh,
Yes, that it
yeah.
dabbled in the slave trade and also craft and with markets further in the north
Yeah.
of the Ashanti Empire. Uh, and unfortunately, it fell victim to the British and was colonized by the British. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way things goes. Yeah, it's like the Anglo-Ashanti War is what I'm finding here. There's up to four of them at least. I would say, like, I mean, sure, it had some bad influence, but it's still big in the influence market here. So, like, influence, good or bad, it depends on how you put it. From the looks of what Connor was talking about, it was very good in many different agricultural, economic influences, and then it also leads into the it says right here, like a historical tradition of slavery in the Ashanti Empire. They were taking captives from enemies in warfare, which, I mean, looking at all the other ones we're going to talk about later, like places like the Romans, they basically did the same thing. So I think, like, taking that aside, I would probably put it seems like B tier for me. Like, it seems pretty influential on what it brought to the wide range of things.
And what's
Yeah,
also
but it didn't
very
last that
cool,
long ago, did it?
Hmm?
It didn't last that long ago, did it?
It I can't find anything where it lasted.
it lasted
Yeah, I mean,
till
I'm saying founded in
1901.
1901.
yeah, it says lasted till 1901. It was founded in 1670, and it was would you say it was formally recognized or formally established in 1701, Connor?
It was officially recognized as the Ashanti Empire in 1701.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, I mean, according to Wikipedia, of course, that's what it says in 1701, but it also acknowledges that there was a state that existed in that area pre Ashanti Empire. But what's also really cool about them, too, is that the part of their governance system, they had elections and impeachments of the kings.
Really? That's
Hmm.
the first
Yes,
time you see one of these in an empire.
so the senior female of the kingly lineage nominated eligible males. And then the senior female then consulted the elders, male and female of that lineage, and then the final candidate is then selected. The nomination is then sent to a council of elders who represented other lineages in the town or district.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they presented the nomination to the assembled people. If the citizens disapproved the nominee, the process was restarted. But if the citizens approved, he became the king and swore a solemn oath to the earth goddess.
Okay,
So that's fun. And
that sounds
then,
fun.
with the impeachment system, any king who violated any of the oaths taken during their installment, they were to be. The term is destooled by the kingmakers, i.e., the people that put them in the power.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, It entailed kingmakers removing the sandals of the king and bumping his buttocks on the ground 3 times. Once he stole from the office, his sanctity and thus reverence were lost, as he could not exercise any of the powers he had as king. This includes chief administrator, judge, and military commander. And then an impeachment. However, even if he stole from office, the king remained a member of the royal family from which he was elected.
Mm-hmm.
An impeachment occurred during the reign of Kusi Obadam, which was caused by a failed invasion of another neighboring African nation, Dahomey.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
for me,
yeah, where are you putting it?
so for me, this is just a really cool. I'm gonna put them in the B tier for me.
B. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking because yeah, it sounds like very interesting, you know, in terms of like how much like that stuff that they were working on there. Yeah. Fish, where are you putting it?
I was gonna say C tier, but now I gotta agree. B is pretty good. I mean, the influence there, and yeah.
All right.
Oh no.
Okay,
Never mind. I thought.
No, wait. You want to put it somewhere else, or?
No. I saw the screen change for a second. I thought you did something. No, I'll take that.
I'm just switching windows here. Next is the man, the myth, the legend, the Assyrian Empire. We all know this. We all know this.
Oh yes, a good classic tale of unification.
The classic Assyrian Empire.
Good old unification in the Mesopotamia. Went from a city-state to this large swath of territory that unified, for better terms, what is now Iraq and modern-day Syria, all the way down the parts of Egypt and the areas of Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, and Jordan.
And obviously, like we talk about this so much in history classes. Like this is one of the big empires, well, even one of the first empires to even come up in known history. You know.
Yes.
This is on the likes of Egypt and Greece and stuff like that. Like things that that come up at this time. So I mean, even looking at this map here, did they take over Egypt at some point? I mean, that's big footing right there.
That is, I guess that's impressive.
That is very impressive. Let's see what happened to them.
Well, I think a little group known as Persia comes in a bit later.
Coming into factor. Yeah, that's definitely probably what happens here. Okay. Well.
I'm looking here. It says it lasted 19th centuries from 2500 BC to 605 BC, which is a pretty good amount of time there. Yeah.
And
the fact of the matter too is, on Wikipedia, if you look at its historical era classification, it is classified from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age. You don't see many countries or empires or ancient civilizations that are able to go from, right.
It even says too. It talks about language, talking about the cuneiform tablets too. Like one of the first known uses of language and writing in known history. Stuff like that.
And don't forget the first law, kind of law system as well.
He's escaping my mind right now.
But no. Yes, the Assyrians are just a good old-fashioned S tier for me.
Yeah, I think they're based for me. They're based. I mean, how much influence they have brought onto not just their part, but also the world on a later scale. And sure, I mean, they combined their big empire with another big empire later on, moving into the Persian Empire. And,
right.
Yeah, it has so much influence, and a lot of the influences that Assyria did bring would be blended in to the Persian Empire coming in.
Oh, 100%.
All right, you putting based?
Yes, absolute Assyria.
Fish, where are you putting it?
I'm gonna say based as well. I mean, can't forget our main man, Ir Nasir, came from there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Copper salesman himself.
Yeah. All right. We're getting to some good ones, things that we know. AustriaHungary.
Alrighty. Oh, lovely AustriaHungary.
What do I know? I want to say A or B, but let's look some stuff.
It is
the Austro-Hungarian Empire. See, this is a more modern empire to talk
It
about
is.
too.
It's also technically a continuation of the next empire on the list.
Yeah, to the
Um,
Austrian Empire.
yes, so
Yeah.
most of us know what the Austro-Hungarian Empire is. Ruled Central Europe, ruled from in Vienna. It had lands as far west as the Swiss-German border, all the way as far east as the Romanian and Russian Empire.
Yeah.
Control the definition of a multi-ethnic state. You had Poles, Czechs, Slavs, Hungarians,
Serbs.
uh, Serbs, Germans. It was a melting pot of
Yeah.
people in that empire.
Yeah, and I mean, even we had to talk about his downfall, especially World War One being a
Yes,
factor, because I mean, like this is the time where so many empires are falling, especially after World War One. You got Austro-Hungarians, you got the Russian Empire, you got even like the German Empire to a short extent, really. If you want to talk about the Third Reich as its new empire, um, but like yeah, this is like literally the end of empires in this
of
like time
course.
period.
Of course, a lot of people are like, "Well, why is it called the Austro-Hungarian Empire if the Austrian Empire was a thing?"
Yeah.
Well, that comes from a compromise that actually established the dual monarchy system within the Austro-Hungarian Empire to create Austria-Hungary.
Yeah.
Basically, it partially reestablishes the pre 1848 sovereignty of the Kingdom of Hungary, being technically a separate entity and no longer a direct subject to the Austrian Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And what compromise does, it puts the end to a basically a dictatorship or absolutist rule over Hungary. And so, with the end of that dictatorship style, the Kingdom of Hungary is officially restored. Um, some of its old constitution is able to come back, but as part of this compromise as well, the House of Habsburg, which was a lot of these Austrian rulers, were now reorganized to basically include Hungary as a separate kingdom that they are also in charge of.
Which sounds really cool. I mean, like just how it sounds. I mean, it sounds like really interesting, and obviously it's bringing a lot of influence into today. Obviously, creating the countries of Austria and Hungary. You know,
Yes, and I'd say not just. I mean, you have Austria and Hungary obviously come from there,
and
but you also have the Czech Republic,
yeah,
Slovakia. You have what is now more territory that's part of
like
Romania.
a little bit of Ukraine in there.
Yes, a little bit of Ukraine, a little bit of Poland. You also have a little bit. You also have the Balkans, with
Mm-hmm.
Bosnia, Croatia, and Slovenia in there
Yeah.
that would eventually become independent, but would ultimately go to Yugoslavia after its
Mm-hmm.
dissolution.
So definitely, I mean, like we can all agree that there's a lot of influence, especially with even like this is the birthplace of World War One itself, especially in Sarajevo.
Yes.
Like right here on the map with Archduke Franz Ferdinand of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So I mean, like, I'm gonna say this one's got to be a base for me. I'd say I'm gonna put it. I'm not gonna put it as base as Assyria because I feel like Assyria has brought a lot more out than Austro-Hungary has done. Because obviously, like, I mean, it's hard to fight against the Assyria because it's one of the first empires coming up. But I can make a good case later on for other empires to take that number one seat. But I would say it's a base for me. It's just so good, and it provided a lot of things leading up into World War One and how a bunch of things happened, stuff like that.
So for me personally, I would have put Austria-Hungary in the B tier.
Okay, are you putting it above any or at the bottom?
I'll put it. I'll put it below. Yeah, I'll just keep it there.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing with Austria-Hungary, yes, they are one of the central players of World War One,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, the actual establishment of Austria-Hungary doesn't last that long. The compromise only comes about in 1867. At that point, it's only like what, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 51 years until the dissolution of the empire all in itself. They didn't the individual when it was the Austrian Empire, you can argue for a higher tier. But for me, as the Austro-Hungarian Empire, it's not that high for me.
Okay. Fish, what are you saying?
Honestly, I'm going to go middle ground A. Yeah, they didn't last that long, but they were also extremely influential. World War One, and they held their ground pretty well for the duration of World War One, getting beat out by Italy, Russia, other Allied power. I mean, I'd say it's a solid A tier. You know, it's not like the biggest and the best, but
Okay.
nothing to scoff at.
Yeah. Speaking of Austria-Hungary, now we're moving on to the Austrian Empire.
Yes, basically the established Austrian Empire. For the map, the map of the Austrian Empire for the most part is the same to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The only important notes is that the Austro-Hungarian Empire no longer controls part of northern Italy, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire does control parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina that the Austrian Empire does not control.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, they had in Iraq, there was a whole lot of stuff that had to deal with the formation of Germany during this time period.
Mm-hmm. And it also talks about how it was in at least for the end part here, it's like the it was defeated in the Austro-Prussian War. So then it created that compromise you were talking about earlier with the Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867, basically combining forces with Hungary itself. So I would say it's not as good as the Austro-Hungarian Empire because it just blends into another empire. But I feel like it's going to be on a solid A. I would say it's not as influential as the Achaemenid Empire, but I think it's definitely solid. It's a solid empire on its own.
Here's a fun fact. Last semester, I took a class about the German Empire, going up to how it was created to the end of World War One, and Austria plays a significant part during this time because during this time period, there's a debate going on whether or not should it be a Prussian-led German Union or a Austrian-led German Union, and B, if it's a Austrian-led German Union, does that mean only the parts of Austria that include Austria and modern-day Czech Republic be included, or does that mean include all lands of the Austrian Empire, which would mean non-Germanic peoples in that case?
Yeah.
So for me, just because I love German history, I love the roles of the formation of the German Empire that we'll talk about eventually. I want to put Austria as an A tier.
A tier? Nice. Fish, where are you putting it?
I'm agree with A tier. Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's again one of those pretty solid ones, ones you can't go wrong learning about and what happened with it. So yeah, it's really much. Next, the Ayyubids.
The Ayyubid Sultanate.
Man, there's a lot of sultanates in here.
Yes, or you can say Ayyubid Dynasty if you want to say that as well.
Yeah, it's Dynasty. Okay, so it looks. It looks like it doesn't really have much ground they covered. It feels like at least just I'm seeing so many different ones. Yeah.
I'll say the one on Wikipedia, the only link I have on the most the most important site out there. The Ayyubid dynasty was a Kurdish dynasty, actually, a Sunni Muslim Kurdish dynasty that controlled parts of Egypt, parts of Mesopotamia along the Mediterranean coast, going down along the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
This is a fun thing. They actually fought in the First Crusade against the Crusaders.
Okay, nice. Okay, so that's definitely some good influence there.
Yes, and then they also became the one of the members of the Ayyubid Sultanate was proclaimed as the first Sultan of Egypt by the Abbasid Caliphate. Funny enough. So
Um,
yeah, it's
okay, so
a
yeah,
very interesting dynasty. It looks like, and it's kind of like Islam has been present in Egypt at this point, but it's kind of like one of the this is kind of like one of the first after the caliphates. This is one of the first Muslim uh, rulers in Egypt after the
we
caliphates.
say it's kind of like a DLC.
In a way,
It's like a
yes, actually.
DLC.
I hate the way you
Yeah.
describe things sometimes.
Hey, it worked, didn't it?
So yeah, it's
Yeah. So like, okay. So I'm gonna just kind of like let's fall. Um, it seems like it's kind of like still there. Um,
for
yeah.
me, from what I'm seeing, it lost territories
Mm-hmm.
because of the Crusades.
Yeah.
Um, especially during the Sixth Crusade, uh,
Mm-hmm.
when at this time they controlled Jerusalem. They offered Jerusalem to Frederick II, who was in charge of the crusading forces, to prevent a Syrian invasion of Egypt. But ironically enough, even though it was a crusade, the leader of the crusades said no.
Yeah. So
I he just basically looks like the this Egyptian sultanate just kind of
and I'm also seeing
died
too that
out.
like it was created when the death of Saladin happened. At least that's what it showed
Yes.
on Wikipedia. Shout out Wikipedia. For me, I'm gonna put it as C tier. Probably better than the Algerian Sultanate. For me, it seems like it provided more, um, like things like grand scheme in the fold there for like, especially being like part of the Crusades and stuff like that, and like having that great Muslim influence in the Middle East and keeping a grasp on that continuation of Muslim influence just works well in there. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna go for C tier as well.
are you
There's
putting
probably
them
some.
above or? Oh,
I'll put it above the Adjourned Sultanate as well. There's probably, I mean, from what I see, there's probably a lot of stuff that happened during this time period. But
mm,
going based off our criteria for this
yeah,
and looking at how long it lasted, it didn't last all that long, really.
yeah. Fish, where you putting it?
I'm gonna agree with C. It doesn't really seem like the biggest or the best, but it's not the worst.
Higher or lower than the Acunids?
I don't think I was here for the Cunids, and if I was, I don't remember. I'm
It was the
above.
Persian one, Cyrus the Great.
Ah,
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, this one, guys. This one's got to be high up. The Aztec Empire. We all know the Aztec Empire.
Yes, the sacrifice to the sun gods.
Yes, sir. Sacrificing and living life.
One of those empires that we always talk about in high school here in the United States.
And we also got probably one of the biggest cities, and not even just in Mexico, but like in just all of Native American history in the West. We have Tenochtitlan. Um,
Yes,
and then think about it too, how I mean it doesn't have like a huge empire growth, but definitely it's one of the major dominating forces in
yes.
Mexico at this time, especially compared to the Mayans in the Yucatan Peninsula and the Inca that are also in Peru.
Especially just how the Aztecs ruled through a combination of military force,
Mm-hmm.
tributaries, and alliances too. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is some. I gotta say that is some
Yeah.
complex political maneuvers for this time period. Of course, that wouldn't matter whenever the Spanish arrived
The
by Hernan
Spanish
Cortez himself.
when Hernando Cortez comes into play. I mean, even think about it too, like with agriculture, like subsistence farming and like building literal like islands too.
Yes,
That's
I would
like
say that
insane
is
as well.
that's something that you see a lot of nowadays, but
Mhm.
it's like it was around way before.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
big with them. I'm gonna have to put this in a based. Like it provided a lot of basis about. I'm gonna probably put it above Austria-Hungary on the terms of like all the influence that it brought to Mexican culture, especially with basically like Mexican culture is really like the blend of Spanish and the Aztec traditions. So it has like a little bit of mix of like both like culture wise. It has stuff like substance farming. Sure, it's got a small size of empire, and also it got attacked by a much larger empire, especially ones that involve gunpowder and armor. I mean, like, what do you think's gonna happen? You know,
and lovely disease, but
and disease,
I,
smallpox.
I'm also going to agree. I'm going to put the Aztecs in an S tier as well.
Put it just right here or higher.
Yep. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Fish.
Yeah, I'd say based.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of great things like the agriculture, their weapons. They have the one I forget the name of it. It looks like a paddleboard, but it's got obsidian blades on the
Oh
side.
yeah,
I believe
yeah,
there's a story of one of their warriors nearly beheading a horse with one swipe with that thing.
yeah. Like I mean, like, and also think about like all the innovations too that they did like on their own solo. Like especially talking
Hmm.
about like weapons and like different technologies. You know, different religious practices, especially sacrificing. Funny enough, I think it's this empire. I learned actually just today in my American West history class that basically what the Aztecs would do is they would when they would attack a place, they would invite the leaders over to like a dinner, and they would kill the sons of the leaders of the tribe, and then they would behead them and like basically like cook them up and make their leaders eat it. Like that's insane.
That is
Mm.
wild. That is some
Like who
maniacal behavior
decides
there.
to put that together? Like it's just like
Sustenance.
that's like to prove dominance like in the
It
region.
really is.
That's like a dominant force. Like if you know that there's an empire that's doing that around you and you're like a small growing empire, I'm staying away from those guys. Like it's like one of those things. And that was pretty
Yeah,
easy one for
it's
me.
crazy.
Babylon. We all know Babylon.
I would say Babylon and Assyria go hand in hand.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how to spell Babylon, so I'm just gonna do. There we go.
Isn't it baby then
Yeah.
Lon?
Yeah, something like
Baby
that.
Lon?
There we go.
Yeah,
The
that is.
Babylonian Empire. Obviously, you know that in the Assyrian Empire, as Connor said, goes hand in hand. Combined
And
by
some people,
the rivers of the Tigris and the Euphrates. You know,
yes, we get the Hammurabi's code as well with
Hammurabi's
Babylon.
code. That's right.
Okay.
It was
There's some
incredibly important and influential.
Very
some
important and
people
influential.
some people also just when it comes to Babylonian Empire, some people just intermix. They just say exchange the two because for the most part they are very similar.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, they're definitely similar. I would say that, like, I would say definitely the influence of providing Hammurabi's code, especially with many other laws that are coming out to this day and laws coming out now. It is definitely a major influence. Like like who has not learned Hammurabi's code in high school and even into college for that matter? Like, everyone knows Hammurabi's code, like an eye
Yeah.
for an eye. You know,
Don't forget also it's a religious significance too, like with the Tower of Babel.
the Tower of Babel, and also like the Epic of Gilgamesh. You're talking about that.
Do. Alrighty.
So for me, I think I'm gonna probably put it. I don't want to put too many base because I mean we can't put everything at base.
I'd say it's a solid A tier above the Austria and the other one.
Yeah, that's what I'm probably putting mine too. I would say it's definitely very influential. Connor, where are you putting yours?
Yeah, the highest of A tiers for me.
Mm-hmm. Fish, you agreeing?
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
Yeah, like I mean, we cannot deny the fact of all the influences that they brought out, with all the stuff that they did. Now the Belgian Empire. Now you don't really hear about the Belgian Empire, so
I didn't even know the Belgian had an empire.
just not
Belgium
everyone.
did have an empire. It's technically the Belgian colonial empire, is what
Ah,
it's being
that's
referred to here.
definitely what it's referring to. There we go. That's the
I
creator of
thought,
Belgian Empire. Wait, that seems weird. Why did they have Florida?
oh, that is
That's
crazy. I didn't think they were
historically
that big.
inaccurate.
Is this inaccurate? Good. At least someone
I
knows.
believe
Is
I
this
believe
better?
that is. Yes,
This
that
is
is
looking a
more
little
accurate.
better. I was gonna say, why do they
Yes,
have Florida?
so yeah, that is more accurate. And actually,
Okay.
that is it.
If we're talking in terms of all the colonial empires at this time, this has some pretty decent chunk. However, I would say definitely not as comparative ones like a French Empire or a British Empire or a Spanish Empire, even Portuguese for that matter.
Yeah, it's
Well,
relatively small
Like
compared to those. It's something, but not,
it feels like
amazing.
these guys were late in the game.
what's really interesting about this is that obviously their major colony is the Congo. What was very interesting is that unlike like Britain and France, where their colonies were like part of the state or whatever it was, the uh, Belgian Congo for a long time was declared a personal asset of the king.
Okay.
It wasn't, I forget what year it was. Eventually, it would technically become a colony of the Belgian state, but I do find that kind of cool that, not cool because actually Leopold II, uh, this is where this is where you get some of the infamous atrocities to the local population with the cutting off the hands,
Yeah, stuff like that.
and they're also in "We didn't start the fire for all the wrong reasons."
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, it's like with all these colonial empires, you have to bring into the factor of the treatment to the indigenous groups that they did at the time. So, like, obviously, like a lot of these are not going to be that great. Um, I would say for me, I'm probably gonna like put this like again, compared to all the other colonial empires at this time, there really isn't much to go off of. But I think it's gonna be at least a solid C for me, by above at least the Sultanates.
For me, I'm going to put it in F tier
F. Oh, dang.
because it's the relevancy of the quote Belgian colonial empire.
That's
It's
a good factor.
if you're calling it a colonial empire, but then you only control the Congo,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's to me. When I think of colonial empire, I think of like the Dutch, the French, the Spanish, the
Yeah,
British.
like you think about like the
So,
bigger ones, you know.
so I don't think, and it's not like it had. Yeah, I mean, unless you are a big fan of human atrocities and war crimes and
Yeah,
whatever,
stuff like
it's
that.
just just stuff like that. I mean, it's not that much of a noticeable thing to me
Mm.
personally.
Fish.
I'm gonna be a little nicer than Connor. I'm gonna say D tier. Yeah, it wasn't the most relevant and
Um,
didn't really do a whole lot.
what
I
part of
mean,
D? Like
props to them. I, I'd say like bottom of D.
bottom D. Okay.
Yeah, mainly just because. I mean, props to them. They for like such a small amount of land they had, controlling the amount of land that they colonized. But yeah, no, they didn't do a whole lot. They weren't there for a whole lot.
We still have so many more empires to go. Oh man, we're gonna be here for a
Part
while,
two. No,
boys.
can make it a two-parter.
It could make it a two-parter, but I don't want to remember all this. Um. All right, next, the Empire of Brazil.
Uh, Brazil, let's go.
So,
The Empire of Brazil is
is
it's
like,
kind of
is,
it's kind of interesting,
is this
honestly,
it?
because
Is all right?
yes,
Is that
the
because there's something?
Brazilian Empire
Yeah,
is the modern day borders of Brazil, pretty
it's
much.
basically just Brazil.
There's yes,
Oh,
except it controls Uruguay
no.
and maybe some other border regions of Bolivia and Argentina, but for the most part, it's the modern day borders of Brazil.
I'm seeing it
They're
also
kind of
has a little bit of Africa here in some of these maps.
That's interesting. I would
Uh,
not know anything about it.
yeah, I'm not
That
totally. It says it has a little bit of Angola.
that's kind of cool if there was ever a Brazilian colony in Angola. I
Um,
need to see a little bit more about that. But yeah, they were actually a constitutional monarchy, and it was a
hmm.
rather it was a pretty for the most part, a pretty stable empire.
Yeah.
It was officially declared independent in 1822.
Mm.
Yeah, political stability, vibrant economic growth,
Mm-hmm.
constitutionally guaranteed freedom of speech and respect for civil rights of its subjects,
Okay.
albeit it obviously had the legal restrictions on women at the time,
Yeah.
like most
Like most
places in
places,
the
yeah.
world did.
Yeah.
What's also interesting is that Brazil was the last nation in the world of the Western Hemisphere. I forget the exact one, but they're the last nation to abolish slavery. That comes in
Okay.
the 1870s, I believe, even after like that's yeah. No,
Yeah.
my bad. The abolishment of slavery was in the year 1888. So that
Yeah.
comes
So that's a factor.
20 some years after the United States abolishes it.
For me, I'm gonna probably put this at an E tier. I don't think it's as bad to put F because think about like influences of now modern day Brazil because of it. But it just feels like there's not a lot to go off of. It's literally just Brazil, like plus Uruguay. Think about like size, and also like it feels like there's not really a need to talk about length because I mean, it's what it is. It's Brazil. So
I'm for me, I'm going to put that in a D tier
mm-hmm.
because here's the thing. Yes, while Brazil still exists today, what happened? The empire of Brazil did end because there was a coup d'état and the monarchy was gotten rid of, which led to the first Brazilian republic. And even before the monarchy was gotten rid of, they still had ties to the Portuguese throne. So actually, Pedro the First,
Mm-hmm.
fun fact, he abdicated his throne and departed, and he went back to Portugal so that he could restore his daughter to the Portuguese throne.
Oh, okay, that's
That's
pretty
pretty
based.
based.
That's pretty based. That's pretty based. I would say I mean like I would put it more down lower to F, but also it has a lot of different tolerances that we will start to see like that are more liberal at that time, like freedom of speech and stuff like that. I would say that's why I didn't put it in F, but I would have put it in F. Fish, where you going?
I'm gonna go same as D tier.
D tier.
Um,
What place?
it wasn't the above put it like what is it above the behind the abysses, whatever the hell that
The
says.
Basses.
Yeah,
Bassets.
but yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't like size wise. It was there. Population wise, I'm reading it didn't have the biggest population.
Mm-hmm.
However, it didn't last longest.
Yeah.
However, Brazil is still around. It still takes up generally the similar amount of area.
Mm-hmm.
And not like a lot of like empires or like the Ottoman Empire, which is completely gone now, or Austro-Hungarian. So it's still around. And like Connor said, it was their monarchy was overthrown.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say like they're completely irrelevant or something. I'd say it's decent. Solid like higher D tier.
All right. Next one, my personal favorite, the British Empire. Can we talk about the British Empire?
Do we have a space below F? Can you have a dumpster fire? I mean,
Nah,
like
nah,
God,
nah, nah, nah.
who
Look
cares about the most
how
inconsequential empire to ever exist?
look how gigantic this place is at its peak.
You click on the
See, that's
one map
communist
that includes
propaganda. The British were never that
Connor,
powerful.
what'd you
No, I
say?
kid.
so you click on the one map that includes the United States. Literally
Yeah,
every other map I've
I
seen does
did.
not include the United States.
I did because this was what it was at its peak. Look
Yeah, I
how
don't know
many
why they don't
places they
include the
got.
U.S.
Like probably because at least like the empire was still going on after the
Mm.
U.S. declared its independence and everything. But like
Well,
they
what's
have
kind of
they
what's
have
kind of interesting
yeah
is that what's interesting
yeah
is according to Wikipedia, there's actually two there's two sections of the British Empire. There's the first British Empire, which was the initial colonies,
mm-hmm,
initial territories, plus the United States. Then
mm-hmm,
there was the second British Empire, which is their expansion after the United States declares their independence and is no longer part of the empire.
yeah. Like think about how many places they have. They have literally what is now at least the eastern side of the United States to the Ohio River. They have Canada. They have Australia. They have India. They have like Southern Africa, Egypt. They have all these like big empires. Like they have like at least they have one big empire from history.
Fun
Then,
fact too, technically they had a portion of Germany like that map shows
yeah,
because of what would eventually be Victoria II. She was from Germany.
exactly. And then you have like what was that? Iceland up there? Yeah, Iceland too. Like they have a lot of land here. Like would you say like 40% of the world here?
I wouldn't say
No, it's not quite 40. I'd say
Say
it's
I
like
wouldn't say
30.
35.
40.
But like it's still like look at all this. Like
It's still large. It is
That's a
still
lot, but
large.
like you're not
huge.
including a lot of Asia there. I mean, like that's a
Yeah.
huge chunk.
Oh,
So I wouldn't say a
true,
whole
true.
40.
I didn't think
But
about putting Asia in there, but yeah, but
it
yeah,
was certainly an influential empire, though.
100%. Like think about all the influences they provide in the United States itself, with also English. We speak English.
What? We do?
Yeah, we do all right.
That's
And then
crazy. I thought we spoke
Australia
American
with
English.
like its different Australian dialect, like is kind of compared to the British dialect a little bit. Just a little like more hick, you could say. Then we have Canada too. It has also like its own little dialect with the aboot things.
And
Yeah,
for the
Also, the
most
French
part,
influence up there too.
yeah, and yeah, so yeah. We'll get to French. We'll get to the French here.
for the
But
most part, the empire itself lasted until the end of World War One. Now, after the end of World War One, the physical empire was still there,
mhm.
but
Yeah, even think
actually,
about
but
how much land the British owns now. British owned like territories. Like
Don't they still have
technically,
influence in Canada and Australia?
yeah.
yes, they are part of the Commonwealth, not the Commonwealth. They're part of the Commonwealth, which
Mm-hmm.
means that they are independent. They are their own entities, but
Mm-hmm.
the monarch of the United Kingdom is still technically the head of state. So while
Yeah.
in Canada, Justin Trudeau is technically he is the prime minister. There is King Charles III is still technically the head of
Mm-hmm.
state, but he has this person named the Governor General who quote rules in his stead. He's basically the king's representative in Canada.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you think about like in the UK alone, like you have England, Wales, Scotland, North Ireland, like you got that stuff too. Which those are like kind of like their own separate entities. So
They are their own entities technically. Yeah.
I mean they're part of the whole big British Empire. So
Yes.
definitely very influential. Me, I'm putting this top of based. Like even like looking at the next one too, like the British Raj. I don't know what that place is, but you know where it's getting its influence from? The British Empire.
The British Raj is India and Pakistan, but
Yeah,
we'll talk about that in the next one.
the
For
next one.
me,
Yeah.
for me, S tier.
S tier, like based.
Yeah, the
Is it
base tier,
full based?
all based. I
All
mean,
based.
it's it's had a large influence for better or for worse.
Fish.
Honestly, I'm gonna put it A tier, not in based, just because like of all the horrible things that their empire was responsible for. You know what they did to the American Indians, what they did to the Aboriginals in Australia, India, and as well. They did do a lot of not great stuff,
Mm.
but their influence is still relevant even today. I mean, after all, I wouldn't say their empire, but their kingdom is still around with the
Are you
UK
putting
for
top of
control
A?
over Scotland and Ireland.
Are you putting top of A, or are you putting like where are you putting it?
Oh, sorry, yeah, top of it, yeah, definitely top of it.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's
yeah,
still like I said, it's
definitely.
still a very relevant place
Yeah,
today.
definitely looking at like all the like the stuff that they did to the native peoples in where the United States is. I mean, compared to what the Spanish did, at first they were all like pretty nice and friendly, and then obviously those wars started taking place. And now, like when we get to the French colonial empire, obviously like there's more of a friendly relationship between Europeans and native, but we still got a lot to go. Next,
Also, their food sucks. Just throwing that one out there.
the British Raj. So basically, Connor already mentioned it's India and Pakistan. I don't think I really need to look it up. Do I need to look it up?
Um,
I'll look it up.
it's the it was considered the crown jewel of the British Empire.
Yeah.
It had so much resources that
Yeah.
the British considered very important to their people back home. But yeah, as that picture shows, the Raj went from Pakistan all the way to like modern day Myanmar.
Yeah, so I mean, like obviously, there's a lot of influence here, especially all of India, and like a couple other places around, like Myanmar and stuff like that, and a little bit of Pakistan. So, in obviously, what Carter's saying is known as the crown jewel of the British Empire. I feel like at least if the British Empire didn't have this area, it probably wouldn't. I mean, it would still be hugely influential, but like this is like definitely a big, huge setting stone. That's why at least in the times of when it was declaring its independence, like India was in the 40s. Is it in the 40s, 40s, 50s, in that area?
Shortly after World War II
Yeah.
is
So
when
like
India got its full
that's why
independence.
like the Brit like the UK did not want to get rid of it as much as what other countries did, like with Canada, with Australia, because like at least at that time a lot of like other like nations like, hey, we want to be like our own nation. British like, okay, yeah, go ahead, like it's cool. And then India's like, nope, not having it. Like this is the crown jewel, like this is like the big part. So I'm gonna say this is probably high up for me. I'm probably gonna put it maybe top of A for me, considering because how much connection it's got with the British Empire.
So for me, it's kind of weird because technically it's technically like its own autonomous colony
Yeah.
in a way. Uh kind of I mean, it was very important to the British for a
Mm.
reason. It had its own kind of like degree of territorial operation aside from the British Crown.
Mm.
Probably going
So
to put that one as like like a B tier for me.
where would you like
Just 'cause
top or
I'm going to put it on top of the yeah, I'm gonna put it at the top
okay?
because it's just kind of weird. Like
Yeah.
because it's just really I was kind of thrown off when I saw British Empire and British Raj were their own two separate entities for this thing,
Mm. Yeah.
but it's still its own thing.
Like it says,
I
it's
don't
like on
know.
an autonomous place, All right, fish.
Honestly, I'm
Mm.
thinking C,
But
bottom of
what
C,
what would
only
say
because it was still. I said bottom of C,
above? Oops.
only because it was still technically British. I mean,
Okay.
the area it was in was not bad, but yeah, it's still technically British. So
That's a fair point. Definitely. I mean, it's still technically part of the British Empire, but it's like its own like little thing. Definitely, as Connor's saying, it's like really weird. It's like a gray area. But next, Bulgarian Empire.
The Bulgarian Empire. Ooh,
Bulgarian Empire. Okay, so it looks to be like okay, this one's probably pretty accurate. Um, yeah. So looking at we're seeing the like you have the Ottoman Empire here, and you have the Kingdom of Bulgaria, right? Um, okay, I'm seeing like way different like other maps here. Like this one like shows like all of Russia. I think this one's a little bit
so
off.
so the map you're initially looking at, that's the map of Bulgaria going into World War One.
Okay,
I think in this case
we
of what
should
the Bulgarian Empire was, it was
Wikipedia. And
yeah.
wow, there's
There's
two different ones.
yeah. So there existed at two separate times.
Let's look at the
It
first one
was
here.
it was kind of interesting. They were recognized by the Byzantine Empire
Mm-hmm.
and were able to consolidate power because of it. Um, I don't fully know too much about the Bulgarian
Yeah, no,
Empire.
like, yeah, it doesn't feel like there's much going off of it. I'm looking
I mean,
at,
you have a lot of slot. That's how you get Bulgaria to begin with, is because the Bulgars from
mm,
uh, the the steppes migrated to that area.
it also is looking like, it got taken over by the Byzantine rule. and then they tried to regain and liberated in 1185, establishing the Second Bulgarian Empire. So going into that, then um, it said it looks like it had like some instability, and then the Mongols took it over.
Oh, the Mongols.
The Mongols, every time the Mongols. I mean, it just felt like it was just a little lost in where it was. like,
Yeah, like it had to deal with the Byzantine Empire, and then eventually it would have to deal with the Ottomans and also deal
the
with Mongolia.
Mongols. Yeah, I felt like it's just lost in the fold for me. So I'm probably gonna put it I'm gonna probably put it at D tier. It doesn't really feel like it brings a lot of influence, world influence wise, but it
Yeah,
seems, yeah, like it's there.
I agree. It's D tier for me as well.
Uh, bottom or top?
Bottom.
Bottom.
Yeah, bottom.
Fish.
Damn, I got a lot in D. D. I'm gonna put D tier
At
as well,
bottom.
bottom of D tier. Or no, put it above Belgium. Put it above Belgium.
Above Belgium. At least.
Well, I mean, like, all right, you had it lasting for a little while from what was it, 681 to
Mm,
1018, and then it fell, and then it came back, and then
yeah.
it fell again. I mean, they kept getting attacked by everybody, so they held off what they could, but yeah,
Mm,
like you said, the influence wasn't there. They weren't really the best, and they were unstable or unstable.
yeah.
So I'd
Okay.
say a solid D tier.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, definitely just from all that we talked about, there's like nothing really much to go off of. I'm sure they have a lot of interesting things. It's just we don't have time to read it all the way through. Um. Okay. Oh boy. There's still
Are you
more.
sure you don't want to make a part two? Holy.
I'm thinking about it. um. Let's go up to ancient
Maybe till we get to the
Egypt.
First Reich. All right.
Let's go at least up to ancient Egypt, and then we'll call it, and then we'll do part two next week. All right, stay tuned for part two. Like, comment, subscribe when we get when we get to the end there. The Burgunese Empire says empires. So
Okay. So I think I already pulled it up. So it looks like the Burmese Empire is that there was multiple kingdoms and city states in that area uh, during the early, the 1500s and earlier. But from what I'm seeing on Wikipedia is that the first kind of like central kingdom in that area that was able to consolidate power was what is it? The Tongu Kingdom. Uh, it
yeah.
the one picture I'm seeing, it looks like it controlled as far down it controlled Thailand,
Mm-hmm.
controlled modern day Myanmar, and controls uh, what's north of Cambodia? Is that
Yeah.
Laos?
That's it. And like
Yeah.
all things, it ends up being part of the British rule.
Yes.
So
Well, scrolling through, it looks like it had some cultural significance and some like
oh,
Buddhist significance.
there's one
Um,
up here. Yeah.
but ultimately, it would become part of well, part of it would go the part of it would become Thailand. Part of it would become part of the British Raj. The part that became Thailand was kind of in a weird spot and was kind of
Mm,
pressured into uh, was slightly pressured by the Japanese to
yeah.
join the Japanese, but they turned towards the Allies once they realized Japan was not going to win.
Yeah. So um, yeah, for me, I mean, it feels like I've never heard of this, and it feels like it's just another part of the British Empire that's gonna be sucked up into it. But I feel like it's got its own like separate culture around it though, which makes it nice. I'm probably gonna put it. Doesn't. Probably put it in the middle. I'm putting it right there and see. It's got like a certain charm to it, but then it ends up just being engulfed by the British Raj and then its own things. So, um, Connor, what about you?
Uh, I'm probably considering. I'd probably could put it as a D tier personally.
Bottom.
I put it above the Bulgarian Empire just so because looks like it had significant influence when it came to Buddhism.
It's also a good factor. Yeah. Fish.
Let me see what I got in D tier, and I'm throwing them all in D tier.
And yeah, you're just dogging on all of these guys. Like, these
I
guys have
mean, I
no
would feel
influence.
no, I would feel bad putting it bottom C because that means it's above the Brazilian Empire, which I would argue is more important. Like I said, because Brazil's still around, so
Fair.
put it in front of put it in front of the Belgian Empire.
From the Belgian. Oops.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of on the same degree. I was a little more nicer to it because like it seems like it brought into the rise of like all that kind of stuff, that the culture and stuff, like Connor was explaining, like the Buddhists and everything.
It had its cultural significance, but it ended up becoming British anyways,
All right,
like you said.
the Byzantium.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
Immediately based tier for me. There's
base
I'm gonna
nothing.
tier.
throw that
I
one in
think
base.
I'm gonna put more base than the British Empire. Connor,
It is
which part of base are you putting it?
the basest.
The base, yeah, the most base. A fish.
Yeah, put it the most based.
Yeah, I mean, like, how much influence they brought out. It's like he literally called himself the second version of the Roman Empire, for that matter.
I mean, they still
You
refer to
could.
themselves as Roman. They only started being referred to as Byzantines, if I'm not mistaken. Was it at the end of their duration, or was it after they fell?
I think it
I,
was like a
I
little
believe
bit.
it was after they fell.
So they still saw themselves as Roman, as Roman as
They
any of them.
still called themselves the continuation of the Roman Empire, which I mean, in a way, it kind of is because it was the Eastern Roman Empire when it was split off from Constantine.
I'll
So
say a lot of people that I know when they talk about the fall of the Roman Empire, they talk about the fall of the Western Roman Empire, not the Byzantine Empire.
I spelled Byzantine. The Byzantine
And
Empire.
how exactly did the Byzantines fall? I forgot.
It's
It was a
Ottomans.
culmination of things, but mostly because
Mostly
of the
Ottomans.
rise of the Islamic
Oh.
nations
Yeah, with the
initially.
Ottomans.
Just look at that land that they got. You know, and also
Yeah, some of the best.
think of it like stuff like the Great Schism, the Hagia Sophia, the rise of Orthodoxy, like with the Great Schism and stuff like that. Think about Constantinople in itself and being very significant. And it's also like I would say the Byzantine Empire has a lot more better emperors than the Roman Empire ever did. Like some of them are actually very, very helpful, especially like holding off so many years, being attacked by the Ottomans. Like
Yes, they didn't have the succession crises the Roman Empire seemed to have every other day.
Yeah, really. Like what the period of 50 emperors, like they're just like throwing them like hotcakes.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the Byzantine Empire was more conjoined. Like even to like the Hagia Sophia now, looking like it today. I mean, look how like the beautiful architecture. Like the Byzantine architecture is very specific to the Byzantine Empire.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why in my one art history class I took in middle school, it was its own separate thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's based. It's based.
Like they feel Roman, but they also feel like they're themselves too. Like it's not just Rome; they are themselves.
It's that they call
They are.
themselves Romans, but then they have like their own autonomy away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which is really nice. All right, next Carthage. We all know Carthage.
The base
And we've said-
counterpoint to Rome.
Yeah, the base counterpart to Rome. That's so true in so many ways. Carthage, based off of like northern Africa here. Obviously, this is Rome here, the Romans at the time, and they have parts of Spain today too. And they were mostly like big on trading too. Like they had a lot, and they like owned the seas for a good while.
Yes, the ancient trade civilization, the Phoenicians, they can trace their roots back to the Phoenicians, actually.
Exactly. I would say it's very significant to history itself, but I'm not going to say it is as base as the Roman Empire, especially during this time, because
Had a very
every single war that they fought against the Romans, they lost every single time.
very painful end to their empire.
Very painful. Even though I say it provides a lot of influence, especially like how many like things they brought up, like Hannibal. Hannibal is definitely one of the big major factors in history, especially all of his military victories against Rome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna probably put it for me top of A, because it's definitely not in base category because their end was so terrible. They just discarded them for the base category. Like their city of Carthage got destroyed and then salted.
Yes.
Like, like how bad could your loss be?
It could be worse. I think.
Yeah. Then where are you putting it, Connor?
Alright, so for Carthage, when they had their ups, they had the highest of ups, but their downs was some of the worst downs
Without a doubt.
ever seen. Man. So I'm going to put this above the Austrian Empire in A tier.
That's fair. Fish?
Yeah, I'd say it's above the put it above the Austria-Hungarian for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I
that
mean
makes sense, too.
they couldn't keep up with Rome,
No, they couldn't.
but I'm looking at the quote. I forget who exactly quoted it, but I know it involved Scipio with the fall of Carthage. As the city was burning, was it Scipio realizing that not all empires could last forever, and realizing his own fragility with Rome as Carthage burned because of how influential and how large it was.
Mm-hmm. And like you can think about like the mythological perspective on Carthage too, because they said like if you rebuild Carthage, your empire is over, which the Romans ended up rebuilding Carthage. Yeah.
Yes.
So, like think about like just all like the poetical influence that also brought out as well. And thinking about it too, like it's just, I mean, I wish we can get to Roman this part. We're gonna have to do a part two, but think about like the Roman Republic, Empire, like I guess if you want, because it says SPQR, I'm going to assume we're talking about both Republic and Empire. Like during this time, like I don't know which guy said it, but he ended every single speech with "Carthage must be destroyed." How based is that?
That is an incredible statement to say, honestly.
It's such a, like, you could be talking about anything. It's like talking about taxes. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna be giving some of the infrastructure and Carthage must be destroyed. Just out of nowhere. Craziness.
Gas prices are going up. We're gonna make it a little cheaper to pave the roads. Also, Carthage must burn to the ground.
We're going off topic. Yeah. I wish we could get to Rome right here, but we gotta move on. At least get to ancient Egypt.
That is weird that the Empire and the Republic aren't separate from each other. I mean, this is an Empire list, though. I'm assuming maybe it wouldn't include the Republic.
Because it says SPQR.
Although,
I'm assuming it says Republic. Like,
but it also just includes Russia straight up too. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know which dynasty it's really talking about, but I'm going to assume, like at least this is all about assumption. We're going to assume that it's going to be involving both. And I'm going to be using both because I know where it's going in my list.
It might as well.
Okay. Next, the Koala Empire. It's kind of cool tiger.
I believe it's the Chola Empire, but it's an empire from southern India.
Okay.
It was a very large maritime empire from the looks of it. The earliest references come during 3rd century BCE.
Is this a good map before you continue? Pretty accurate?
It's an accurate map. It was one of the 3 crowned kings of Tamilakam, whatever that means, but that has to do with the ancient Tamil people that seem to live in the southern parts of the Indian subcontinent. They had a very fertile valley around the Kaveri River. They united the southern India, and it held the territory as one state for 3 centuries between 907 and 1215. So I gotta say that's
a pretty long time. Yeah. I'd say like it's pretty solid, especially let's look at you can see the trade routes that they had. They had a lot of areas for trade, and it seems like they were more of a conquest people than more like just influence people. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because like it
that's kind.
shows like the territory and then just the influence.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from them as well.
I mean, which if you're categorizing it as an empire, I mean, empire doesn't also have to always involve conquest. It can also be like influence and just a matter of what you did as a empire itself. Like I don't know, like well, I guess what would you say is the criteria for an empire? I guess
That's an
it's like
that
very
is
debatable.
a that is a question I've been asked 3 semesters in a row, and I don't want to answer that question
Because
anymore.
like, you don't know like there's a lot of criteria. For me I'm gonna say that at least it's in a solid B because like um I don't think all empires have to involve conquest.
Ah, shoot,
That is
I didn't
true.
realize I was muted there.
Oh,
Honestly, I mean, for an empire, I think it would involve like power, population. You know,
yeah,
its
stuff like that.
ability to influence,
Mm-hmm.
how relevant it was.
Connor, where are you putting it?
I'm gonna put that one as a C tier.
C, bottom
Just
C,
middle.
middle.
Yeah, just middle of the road.
Yeah, it's kind of just doing its own thing. Not really getting anyone's ruffling any feathers. Fish,
You know, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna put it low B.
low B. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the biggest. I haven't really heard much about it, but it didn't seem very inconsequential either. So it's like, you know, it's somewhat relevant. Probably more relevant in its own part of the world than it is over here.
Mm-hmm. I can see that definitely. Next, the Danish empires. It says empires.
I didn't know the Danish had an empire.
They
Danish.
did, and they had technically multiple depending on who you ask.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting some random maps here. Um. Yeah, I'm getting some things I are just a little strange to see. I'm gonna say this is probably the best one that we're getting here.
Yeah. So yeah,
I
I
think
mean
so.
that has a lot of their what they're mostly known for.
Yeah.
Iceland, Greenland.
Then
Um,
Vinland.
so yes, that too. They also controlled Norway technically at this time period as well,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and and Denmark would control Norway until the end of the Napoleonic Wars, which would see
Mm-hmm.
Norway then be ceded to Sweden.
Okay.
Um, they did have other than their obviously Greenland, Iceland, and Vinland, they had a few islands in the Caribbean. They had like one tiny place in Africa. They had a few very small settlements in what looked like India and
Mm-hmm.
part of Malaysia, not Malaysia, but part of that area. And then they
Yeah.
also had a few colonies in like modern day Estonia and a
Okay.
few territories in modern day
So
Latvia.
they got a little bit of things here and there. You know, it's just not. It's not like anything serious. It's just like, hey, let's get on the hype train of colonization.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, for me at least, I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think it's gonna be above the Caliphates for me again. I mean, I just like the Caliphates. I mean, I just feel like they all blend together. Um, but like I would say the Danish Empire is it's pretty solid. When in terms of like it has places all around the world, just small little areas. Um, and I think it's definitely like just like hey, let's get on the hype train. But
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I just hit it on Wikipedia. You put in Danish Empire, and it really doesn't give a lot. I think I know why it puts empires plural though. It's because it refers to a lot like, well, the list here is Dankirky, Danelaw, the North Sea Empire. Oh, I don't know if I can say the word. Danish control of Danish Estonia, the Kalmar Union, Denmark, Norway, the Danish colonial empire of North America, or in North America, West Indies, Gold Coast, and India,
mm-hmm.
Greenland, Denmark, and then Danish realm, which is a sovereign state which consists of Denmark, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland. So I think it's not really anything specific. Like you said, it's references a lot of things
It
And this
doesn't.
is like spanning from 400 to 1814.
So consider some of the Viking stuff part of
Yeah.
the Danish Empire.
Okay. Connor, where are you putting it?
I'm just going to put it as an E tier because
E?
it's just you're going to collectively
Oh,
as in yeah.
Um, above,
Top.
below.
I'll put it at top of E because it's like for me it's like they had just because of how it's set up and the fact that Wikipedia has to be like, do you mean this, or this? To me, that's kind of like, they didn't really have a full empire then.
Yeah, it
If
didn't.
you have to refer to different things.
Yeah, I agree with that. Alright, 3 more left. We got the Durrani Empire.
Durrani. Ooh.
Durrani?
Okay, this. Oh yes. Here we go.
Oh, what is this?
It's Afghanistan.
So I'm getting a lot of stuff. Would you say this is accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was.
Okay.
It looks like the one I'm saying is like the heartlands were like Afghanistan
Basically
and like
Afghanistan.
Pakistan.
Okay. I'm assuming it's probably going to be. Actually, I don't want to assume it's going to be a caliphate, but yeah, it's looking like it.
It was an Afghan empire that spanned parts of Central Asia, the Iranian Plateau, and the Indian subcontinent. At its peak, it ruled over the present-day Afghanistan, much of Pakistan, and parts of northeastern and southeastern Iran, eastern Turkmenistan, northwestern India. Next, this is kind of cool. Next to the Ottoman Empire, the Durrani Empire is considered to be among the most significant Islamic empires of the 18th century.
Really? And
that is impressive. I've kind of heard of it before, just when talking about Pakistan, but never too much in depth.
Yeah. At least I'm reading the kind of like the final years of it. It's that they had succeeded to a remarkable degree in balancing tribal alliances and hostilities, and in directing tribal energies away from rebellion.
Interesting.
Yeah. So definitely, obviously, like we know in Afghanistan, they have a lot of tribal areas, especially in the early times of formation of Afghanistan. Like we were talking about, like early 20th century Afghanistan, where like there's still a lot of tribes always in hostility with each other. So if they're able to quell some of those, that's pretty big feat. And then obviously it says the empire lost its control over Kashmir, to the Sixth Empire, Battle of Shafan. So,
very interesting, and it looks like it stayed in power for a good while. In that, when it did collapse, it looks like it just collapsed into multiple things. The major one being the Emirate of Afghanistan. That is when there was the first official Afghanistan, the looks of it. That lasted for a while too, until it became a kingdom.
And also it says it involves the Anglo-Afghan Wars, what we were talking about earlier with one of the other empires too. So for me, I think it's going to be I'm going to say a solid B. I think it's going to probably be better. I'm gonna probably put it right here for me, because like it seems like definitely what you're talking about. It's like one of the most influential Islamic empires of the 18th century.
Yes, 18th century.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely has like a lot of special influence, especially the parts of Afghanistan, and also like the quality of tribal nations all around. I'd say it's pretty solid.
I agree.
You put it B.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B here. I'm gonna put it below the Raj.
But below the Raj. Yeah, that's an agreeable. Fish. Fish. We didn't do Danish for you. Where did you put the Danish?
Oh. Put in E tier. Put it like upper E tier. No, lower E tier, because that didn't really seem very
all right.
important. Yeah, put it B. I don't care if you put it with Chola or before or after.
Okay, we'll put it after because Chola didn't seem like that special.
Because again, it's similar with Showa. It has its influence in its area, and it's still like its influence is still relevant to this day for the area that it was in.
All right. Next, the Dutch Empire. Definitely, I mean, at least a lot of serious influence.
Yes, more influential than the Belgian Empire, in my opinion.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100% more influential. Let's get a map up here. Okay, this is definitely at its height. Because you see they have a little bit of America, which we knew. And then they got a lot of places all around. I don't think this is accurate. Is it accurate?
Yes.
It had some in Florida?
Because what it is including... Okay, not the Florida part, but the other part. The other parts are pretty accurate because what it is including is that it's including parts that were, administered by the Dutch government. But it's also being the map I'm seeing, Dutch government, but it's also showing territories administered by the Dutch East India Company and the territories administered by the Dutch West India Company.
Yeah, so basically, all that stuff. So, and then also we know the demise basically is just kind of like, basically other European powers basically stepping in, a bunch of like bigger ones like Britain, obviously taking over what they had in their Dutch lands, and obviously stuff like what is now New York, which I forget what it was called back then.
You're talking about New York?
Yeah.
New Amsterdam.
New
It was its original name before the British took it after the Anglo-Dutch War.
Yeah, so.
The second Anglo-Dutch War.
Yeah. So, for that, I mean, I'd say definitely it's more influential than the Belgian Empire, 100%. It's definitely up there. It's not up there in terms of, like, getting the French Empire, the, Spanish Empire, British Empire, but I would say it's definitely, top of B for me. Because, like, definitely, at least, there's a lot of, like, influential ideas that is spread over through those areas. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And also, probably there's some, obviously, bad European things, because that happens all the time.
That's true.
Where are you putting it, Connor?
I'm going to put this the high C tier.
High C? Like the highest tier?
Yeah, right there, yeah. So it's like they definitely were much more influential than the Belgian Empire. It's just, they got bullied a lot.
They just got bullied out of their lands.
Yes, they got bullied enough that eventually their only meaningful territory was modern day Indonesia.
All right, Fish, where are you putting it?
Let's see how I have this here. Yeah, put it high B.
High B. Yeah.
High B, yeah.
Pretty solid. All right.
It has its influences.
Final one before part one's over. We're doing ancient Egypt. Now, this one's pretty influential, okay?
And they built like those big like rock triangles or something like that. I don't know. Those not too important, They also have a cat out in the middle of the desert.
I mean, think about that. Like upper and lower Egypt too. Think about that. Also the lower, middle, and high kingdoms. I think that's how you say it. Then also like the Egyptian gods and goddesses and stuff like that. The Nile River being important. Pharaohs, and obviously the pyramids. Like there's a lot of influence here.
It's Egypt itself. The ancient Egypt is considered to have lasted through the late Bronze Age. Eventually, Alexander comes in and rules over Egypt.
And then you think about like this, like the Egyptian Empire is not really a thing. Like after when Alexander takes it over, but then it's like also like it's still kind of there because it is maintaining like its own autonomy in the terms of like culture and relevance, even into the Roman Empire as well. Like obviously the stuff with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, stuff like that. Like
so it became an integral part of the Roman Empire. It was, Rome relied heavily on imports of grain from Egypt as well.
Yeah, because Yeah, definitely. And also, like, even too, like, when the last pharaoh before Cleopatra comes into play, basically said like, hey, if you're squabbling, the one of the Roman delegates will decide your fate and which one he's going to be pharaoh. Like, that's pretty crazy.
So yeah, it's also too. It's important to note. Cleopatra. She was the last Greek ruler of
Like,
Egypt before the Romans came in.
oh, like,
Was she half Macedonian, half Greek?
yeah.
Yes. So whenever Will Smith's wife said that her Cleopatra show on Netflix, people were downplaying it because uh, she's black. No, history is very well documented that the
Uh,
She is very
Cleopatra.
much so white. She's like the olive kind of Mediterranean white.
yeah.
No, she was documented as Greek, and so it reflects that is not what was depicted in that show on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, like, definitely is so influential in so many ways, you know? For me, I wouldn't say it's very influential. It's not a base, though. They did a lot of things that influence other based places like Rome and stuff like that. So at least I'm gonna probably put it top of A. I don't say it's base for me because it just feels like after Alexander the Great came over, took it over, it's just kind of there. But it still maintains influential. Like, it still holds it holds its relevance for me. Like, even when other empires are at play, like, it's not
Understandable.
taken over. Where are you putting it, Colin?
All right, so for me, I'm probably going to put this ancient Egypt. I'm probably going to put it in A tier below Carthage.
Below Carthage. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. Fish.
I'm gonna put upper A tier. Like you said,
Top.
its influence is great. Like, yeah, right there. Like its influence with the gods, like their
Mm.
gods and everything.
Yeah.
Also pretty influential, especially on Greece and Rome. The pyramids and such.
Mm. Yeah.
And it
Definitely.
it it has the luxury of still being a place that's still around. I mean, it may not be an empire; it's a country now, but
Mm-hmm.
at least it's still around. Not too many empires have that, or not too many empires could say that.
Yeah. 100%. Well, this has been part one of probably I'm gonna try to make this into at least two parts. Trying not to hit a third part. Still got a lot to go off of. So this is it. This is my list. This is Connor's, and this is Fish's list. We're gonna do a part two. Put in the comments, subscribe if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. This is gonna be the first two-parter podcast of the podcast. So next week we're gonna hit it back. Thank you, Connor and Fish, for being here. Hope you're gonna be with me next week when we do it next Thursday. All right. That's about it from us. Peace.